Okay, so today we're going to talk about healthy initiatives, and we're mostly going to focus on Healthy People 2020 because they do a healthy initiative, a Healthy People, that's the name of the document. They do that every 10 years, I believe starting in 2000, but since it is 2015, we'll focus on Healthy People 2020 moving forward. So basically, the key thing with that is it's kind of a document that the Center for Disease and Prevention and Health Promotion puts out so that to kind of guide, again, everything's about guiding where we're going with healthcare. So in the book it'll talk about the three big populations that Healthy People focuses on, and that would be the elderly, rural health, and minority populations. This Healthy People 2020, it differs from the rest of them because it tries to focus more, not more, but it tries to focus more in relation to the Healthy People documents that came before. It tries to focus more on everybody and improving quality of life versus just decreasing illness. So if you go to healthypeople.gov, you'll have the leading health indicators, which they have what's called the health topics, which are the things they're trying to focus on. These are the leading ones, and you'll probably notice them from your own work, but over here, these here. So access to health services, that's probably related to Obamacare, mental health, tobacco and substance abuse, two big things in Maine. So basically, just briefly some points. So what the book says about the aged, just kind of keep in mind that it's not just mortality, morbidity. It's not just mortality. It's also morbidity. It's increasing quality of life. That's important. Theories on aging, successful, usual, pathological aging. We've all known somebody that falls into those categories. Family needs. It's important to focus on the caregivers. People, not just for dementia care, the caregivers of any kind of elderly, whether they have dementia or not. It's important to have some kind of respite care and some groups, not self-help groups, but support groups to go to for caregivers. Societal needs, important with the elderly because they are, I don't want to say our sickest part of the population, but they do, all due respect, eat up a lot of the resources. So it's important to kind of keep them healthy from a political standpoint because you're also controlling costs. Important to think about housing. I don't know if it's a push yet, but it's kind of coming down the pike, I think, to try and move to keep the elderly in their homes because it's kind of something the baby boomers with their independent spirit, they're kind of trying to keep themselves at home and they can see themselves getting older. And also it's a lot cheaper to keep people at home versus nursing homes or assisted livings. Minority health. So the disparities are listed on 279 in the book, some of the disparities that we see within minority health, but it's also important to remember that it's not just people's perceptions or racism that leads to these disparities. Sometimes it's just ethnicities respond differently to different medications. The Robert James Wood Foundation, they came out with recommendations for different sets of medications in pharmacology management, depending on what ethnicity they are. For example, high blood pressure. I know African Americans have a different set of blood pressure regimens that they are prescribed versus Caucasians, and there's different testings, like osteoporosis is higher in Asians and whatnot. Also, cultural competence is being pushed more in school. They're trying to, the powers that be, like the IOM and the government's trying to push for there to be more cultural competence taught in school, as well as competency tools to when you get out into practice. Rural health, that's a big one. Rural health is a population less than 2,500. This is big in Maine. The elderly and the rural are two big ones in Maine. So basically, rural health, things to remember is people from rural areas tend to, by nature, just how it is, less preventative care. It's usually 4 areas that leads to this, but less preventative care, probably related to the fact that they also have a less rate of being insured. So the whole access to healthcare here, access to healthcare is kind of a big one. And just remember, different rural areas have different needs. Rural Maine will have a different need than rural Georgia versus rural New Mexico. Again, there's an aspect of culture here. Just because they may be the same ethnicity, the way that they perceive care and perceive outsiders, and their whole paradigm of healthcare may be different in rural areas. Let's see. Also, the things that are kind of helping in that aspect for rural health is we're seeing more telehealth, and also more things like Life Flight Maine that kind of gives access to people in Fort Kent, gives them, if they need to come to Maine Med or Eastern Maine Medical Center, we can get them there faster. It's not necessarily a death sentence to live in rural areas anymore. So basically, and one of the things is historically rural areas were reimbursed less than urban areas, but we're seeing, and this will tie back into the, well, I probably should just talk about it now then, but so one of your assignments is to find an article about government initiatives and talk about how that is working towards one of the topics for healthy people, to kind of meet one of the healthy people topics in its goal. So for example, rural health clinics, and you have to meet a certain definition and employ so many nurse practitioners to be considered a rural health clinic, they get special funding. And this is to combat health disparities in rural areas and to give better access to health services. Obamacare is one, access to health services. So under topics and objectives on healthy people, go to the website. This is all of them. This includes the leading health indicators, but this is all the topics. And so if you go to, for example, access to health services, we'll get into the paper as well. So if you go to access to health services, you can see under each topic it has a goal and overview. And this is where you're going to get a lot of your information. Why is it important? Why are we even having this topic? And some of the objectives, don't list out every objective for the project. I'll bring up my copy. I'll put this on Canvas as well, but one of the things is summary of objectives. There, you'll see why I put summary and not just list the objectives, because a lot of them have many objectives. So just kind of summarize. You don't have to include everyone, but just kind of give us the gist of where do they want to go with this. Impact on community. What does this mean to your patients that you see? What does it mean to your community? Impact on nursing. What does this mean to you as a nurse? So access to healthcare. Does this mean that you're going to see more patients? There's a big worry about all the worries of Obamacare. Kind of what people were concerned about is now we're going to see more patients, but we're not going to have any more pay to pay for them. And are we going to see healthcare providers take a cut in pay to make up for that? And the overview, which you'll get a lot from the overview. Keep it simple, huh? So those are your assignment for this module as well as the project. And the purpose of the project is just because healthy people, I think it's important to know what's guiding where we're going, but you can see so much, so it's kind of helpful to break it down and just tackle a little bit and then learn from each other. All right, good luck.